Ever wondered how ancient acts of ecological devotion still shape our laws today? Or how a novel financial instrument is literally, well, fueling our future? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into the critical current affairs for September 13, 2025, Part 1. And this is specifically tailored for you, the UPSC aspirant. Our mission, as always, is to cut through the noise. We want to give you the most crucial insights, maybe some surprising facts, from a whole stack of diverse sources. Think of it as your shortcut to being truly well-informed for your preparation. Now, some topics we discussed today might seem familiar. That's great. It's a perfect opportunity for revision, to solidify your understanding. For others, well, prepare for some genuine aha moments. Before we jump in, just a quick reminder, please do like this deep dive and subscribe. It really helps ensure you don't miss future explorations. Okay, let's get started. We often talk about the economy in these big national numbers, right? GDP, inflation. But the real story, the one that shapes policy and impacts lives, often lies in the granular data. So our first deep dive looks at two absolutely vital surveys.
The All India Debt Investment Survey, or AIDIS, and the Situation Assessment Survey, SS. These aren't just data points, are they? They feel more like the pulse of the nation's financial health. What makes them so indispensable?
That's a great way to put it, actually. The pulse. And their real value, especially thinking about the next round scheduled for July 2026 to June 2027, is their history, their continuity. AIDIS, you see, traces its roots way back to the All India Rural Credit Survey in 1951-52. It's been conducted by the NSO, that's the National Statistical Office, roughly every decade. So it gives us this unparalleled view into household debt, assets, both rural and urban India, over time.
So it's that long-term perspective that's key, seeing the trends unfold.
Exactly. And what often gets missed, perhaps, is how these surveys reveal things that aren't immediately obvious. Counterintuitive trends sometimes. You might see, for example, that more credit access doesn't automatically mean less debt overall. Or maybe non-farm income is becoming more important than farming income in certain regions. These are the deeper narratives, the real substance for policymakers to work with. It's the bedrock for, evidence-based policymaking.
Right, evidence, not just assumptions. And the SAS for farming communities, that seems equally critical, especially for a country like India.
Absolutely. The Situation Assessment Survey, SAS, it started in 2003, then got expanded in 2013, strengthened again in 2019. It gives a really comprehensive picture of our agricultural households. It covers, well, pretty much everything. Income, spending, debt, access to credit, land, livestock, tech adoption, government schemes, crop insurance, farming practices, the whole lot.
Wow, that is comprehensive.
It is. And this data is vital because it shows the real-world impact of policies on the ground. Are things actually working? It can highlight disparities, maybe pinpoint where credit is still a major bottleneck, or track how quickly new farming tech is actually being used. And the NSO, based in New Delhi, pulls all this together. It allows institutions like the Ministry of Agriculture, IDT, IOG, researchers, even banks to target interventions much more precisely.
Okay, so from these wide-ranging national surveys, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about a specific financial instrument that recently made headlines with AIDIS. That's the Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency. They raised, 453 crore through something called Perpetual Bonds. These aren't your typical bonds, are they?
No, definitely not. They're quite unique. Perpetual bonds, or PERPs, as they're sometimes called, are fixed income securities with no maturity date.
No maturity date. So theoretically, they pay interest forever.
Theoretically, yes. The issuer, like AIDIS here, has no obligation to ever repay the principal amount. It represents a permanent source of capital for them.
That sounds incredibly appealing for an issuer, especially for long-term projects like green energy. But what's the catch for the investor? Why buy something where you might never get your initial investment back?
That's the key trade-off, isn't it? For the issuer, it's fantastic. Permanent capital strengthens their balance sheet almost like equity, but without diluting ownership. Crucial for funding projects with very long timelines. For the investor, the principal repayment isn't the focus. The appeal lies in the income stream. These bonds generally offer higher interest rates to compensate for the indefinite tenure and the associated risks.
Higher yield for higher risk and potentially never getting the principal back.
Okay. Exactly. It suits certain investors looking for stable long-term income. And it's worth noting, most modern PERPs do have call provisions.
Ah, okay, so the issuer can choose to redeem them.
Yes, usually after a set period, maybe 5 or 10 years. This gives the issuer flexibility for refinancing if interest rates change, for instance.
And how do these behave in the market? Are they stable?
Well, that's another risk factor. Because they have no maturity date, their market price is highly sensitive to changes in overall interest rates. If rates go up, the market value of existing perpetual bonds can fall significantly. Also, in bankruptcy, perpetual bondholders get paid after other creditors, but still before shareholders. In India, you mainly see banks issuing these to meet capital adequacy requirements.
Interesting. A specialized tool for specific needs. Okay, so we've talked finance, but our relationship with the environment often goes much deeper than funding mechanisms, doesn't it? This leads us nicely to a day we recently observed, National Forest Martyrs Day. It's a day rooted in, well, quite profound history and sacrifice.
It really is. Observed every year on September 11th, it's a tribute to Forest Department personnel who've lost their lives protecting our forests and wildlife. And its origins, as you said, go way back to the Kajarli Massacre of 1730 in the Marwar Kingdom, which is now part of Rajasthan.
The Kajarli Massacre. Can you remind us what happened?
Well, the story's quite powerful. Maharaja Apa Singh needed wood for his new palace and ordered kedri trees to be cut down. But the local Bishnoi community, known for their deep reverence for nature, resisted. Led by a woman named Amrita Devi Bishnoi, they literally hugged the trees to protect them.
Hugged the trees. That sounds like the precursor to Chipko.
Exactly. It's considered a major inspiration for later movements like the Chipko movement. Tragically, the resistance led to violence, and an estimated 363 Bishnoi people died defending those trees.
363 people. That's an incredible sacrifice for trees.
It is, and that legacy is why the Ministry of Environment, Forest, and Climate Change officially declared September 11th as National Forest Martyrs Day back in 2013. It's not just about remembering Kajarli, but honoring all who defend nature against threats like illegal logging and poaching. It reminds us that forests are, lifelines. They regulate climate, purify air and water, support biodiversity.
A really powerful connection between historical sacrifice and present-day conservation efforts. Speaking of conservation, let's stay with that theme. Bengaluru recently designated a new Biodiversity Heritage Site, or BHS, about 8.6 acres at the Cantonment Railway Colony. That's the second one in Bengaluru, right?
That's right, the second after the one at Gandhi Krishi Vigyan Kendra, GKVK.
So what exactly qualifies a place to be a BHS? What's the criteria?
Okay, so a BHS is basically an area with rich biodiversity, important for the local ecosystem, and conserved and managed by the local community or society. The criteria under the Biological Diversity Act, 2002, that's the key legislation, Section 37 are quite broad. It could be a unique ecosystem, have lots of wild or domesticated species, high endemism.
Endemism meaning species found only there.
Exactly. Or it might have rare or threatened species, keystone species, wild ancestors of domestic plants or animals, even fossil beds. Cultural, ethical, or aesthetic value can also be factors, and they can be land-based, aquatic, coastal, marine, pretty flexible.
And how does this designation actually happen? Who decides?
It's notified by the state governments, but crucially in consultation with local bodies. That local involvement is really important.
Does it restrict what local people can do there, like their traditional activities?
That's a really important point, and the Act is quite clear on this. The designation doesn't automatically restrict prevailing local community practices. Restrictions only come in if the communities themselves voluntarily decide on them. The state governments can even set up schemes to compensate or rehabilitate people if they are economically affected.
So it's meant to be participatory, not imposed from above.
Precisely. The idea is conservation with the community, enhancing their quality of life through safeguarding these treasures. It underscores that conservation works best when it's locally driven and beneficial.
And the first BHS in India was also in Bengaluru, you mentioned.
Yes, the Nellore Tamarind Grove, designated back in 2007. So Karnataka has been quite proactive in using this provision.
Okay, from these broader heritage sites, let's zoom right in to something incredibly specific. A brand new species of gecko discovered in India.
Yes, quite exciting. A new species of bent-toed gecko, Cyrtodactylus Vanarakshaka, has been recorded.
Vanarakshaka, what does that mean?
It's derived from Sanskrit, Vana meaning forest, and Rakshaka meaning protector. So forest protector. It's named in honor of the Assam Forest Department.
That's a wonderful tribute. Where was it found?
It was spotted in the montane forests of central Assam, specifically on the forested slopes of Jatinga in Dima Hasao district. This area is part of the Boreal Hills, known as a unique ecological transition zone.
And what's the significance of finding this particular gecko?
Well, it belongs to the Cyrtodactylus casiensis group. Geckos in this genus, Cyrtodactylus, are often known for high levels of endemism, meaning they're found in very specific, limited areas and have restricted distributions. This finding actually increases the number of known Cyrtodactylus species in Assam to 5. It really highlights the incredible and perhaps still underestimated biodiversity of regions like the Braille Hills.
Just goes to show there's still so much out there to discover.
Absolutely. And it underscores why protecting these unique ecological zones is so critical. They hold countless secrets, potentially many more undiscovered species.
All right, switching gears now from the natural world to travel and technology.
Yeah.
Let's talk about faster immigration. The Union Home Minister recently expanded the Fast Track Immigration Trusted Traveler Program, the FTI-TTP. What's this program all about?
Okay, so the FTI-TTP is basically an initiative to speed up the immigration clearance process for certain travelers, specifically eligible Indian nationals and also foreign nationals who hold OCI cards.
OCI being Overseas Citizen of India.
Correct. It was first launched at Delhi's IGI airport in 2024, and the recent news is its expansion to 5 more airports, bringing the total to 13 across the country. The main goal is simple: make international travel faster, smoother, and, importantly, maintain security. It helps India's overall global connectivity for business and tourism.
Faster and smoother sounds good.
Yeah.
How does it actually work? What's the process?
It relies heavily on technology and pre-registration. Eligible individuals apply online through a dedicated portal, submit their details, upload documents. Then, their biometrics, fingerprints, facial scan are collected either at a foreigner's regional registration office, an FRO, or at the airport itself.
Okay, so you pre-enroll, then what happens at the airport?
When you travel, you go to the dedicated e-gates. You scan your boarding pass, then your passport for identity verification, and finally, your biometrics are authenticated. If everything matches, the automated e-gate just opens, much quicker than the traditional counter process.
And how long does the registration last?
It's valid until your passport expires, or for 5 years, whichever comes first. And there's an option for renewal. The Bureau of Immigration under the Ministry of Home Affairs is the agency managing it.
So it's really about leveraging technology to balance convenience with security for trusted travelers.
Exactly. Balancing those two is key.
Okay, from faster travel to a potentially life-saving development in health. Some really big news regarding malaria. India has developed its first indigenous multi-stage malaria vaccine.
Yes, this is a very significant development. The Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, has granted non-exclusive rights for its vaccine, called AdFalciVax, to 5 different pharmaceutical companies for further development and production.
AdFalciVax.
Right.
What makes it multi-stage, and why is that important?
Great question. It's significant because it targets the malaria parasite, Plasmodium falciparum, which is the deadliest kind at multiple points in its life cycle. It's designed not just to prevent infection in the person, but also to reduce transmission within the community.
Ah, so it tackles transmission too.
Yeah, right. It targets the parasite before it even gets into the bloodstream, aiming to stop infection right at the transmission stage. And it uses a dual antigen approach. Basically, it includes components, PFCSP protein to prevent the initial infection, and other proteins, PSS230, PFS4845 fusion, designed to block the parasite from being transmitted from an infected human back to a mosquito.
Wow, that's clever. Hitting it from both sides, prevention and blocking transmission.
Precisely. That's the multifunctional aspect. It's not just protecting individuals, it's trying to break the cycle. The core technology uses a genetically engineered food-grade bacterium, Lactococcus lactis, as a delivery vehicle. This was developed by ICMR's Regional Medical Research Center in Bhubaneswar, with collaboration from other ICMR institutes and the National Institute of Immunology. It really showcases India's growing strength in biomedical research.
A potential game changer for public health, especially in malaria-prone regions. Okay, let's pivot now to energy and innovation. There's always a search for cleaner, more efficient fuels. Recently, the Automotive Research Association of India, ARAI, started exploring blending 10% isobutanol with diesel. What is isobutanol, and why look at it as a biofuel?
Okay, isobutanol. Chemically, it's CH-ero, an alcohol, an isomer of butanol. It's a clear, liquid, characteristic smell, flammable. Now, its potential as a biofuel is interesting because, like ethanol, it can be made from plants through fermentation. But it has some potential advantages over ethanol, especially for blending.
Advantages over ethanol, what are they?
Well, for one, it has a higher heating value, meaning more energy packed into it. It's also less corrosive than ethanol. And a big one, it's much less hygroscopic, meaning it doesn't absorb water as readily as ethanol does. This is a huge practical advantage because it means we could potentially use our existing fuel pipelines and storage infrastructure.
Ah, so no need for massive infrastructure changes like sometimes needed for higher ethanol blends.
Potentially, yes. That's a major benefit. It also doesn't distort the fuel blend's vapor pressure as much as ethanol, and it has a high octane rating, which is good for engine performance.
What else is isobutanol used for currently?
Oh, it's used quite a bit as a solvent in flavors, fragrances, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, also in making things like lacquer and paint strippers. It's even approved as a food additive. But this exploration by ARAI into blending it with diesel is really about its potential as a sustainable fuel alternative. It's part of that bigger picture of reducing fossil fuel dependence and tackling environmental impact.
Makes sense. Exploring all viable options. Okay, finally, let's dive into the sometimes complex and concerning world of digital finance, decentralized finance, or DeFi. There seems to be growing concern about its misuse, particularly for illicit activities like terrorist financing. What exactly is DeFi and why is it causing this concern?
Right, DeFi. It's essentially an emerging financial system built on blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. The idea is to enable direct financial transactions peer-to-peer or business-to-business without traditional intermediaries like banks. It uses existing blockchains, things like stablecoins, software protocols, and decentralized applications or DApps.
So things like lending, saving, investing, but bypassing the banks.
Exactly. Loans, insurance contracts, remittances, all potentially possible directly between users or through automated smart contracts. You typically interact with it through a digital crypto wallet.
What's the appeal? Why bypass the banks?
The promise is lower costs, faster transactions, and uncensored access for everyone. More control over your own money, assets transferable globally in minutes. That's the vision.
But the concern is the flip side of that openness.
Precisely. That's the double-edged sword. Access often doesn't require traditional account opening or identity verification. You might just need a password to create multiple crypto wallets, often with no need for an address, phone number, or email. While this enables innovation and access, this anonymity or pseudonymity makes it attractive for illicit actors. Money laundering, terrorist financing, sanctions evasion, raising funds, moving money across borders with less scrutiny.
So the challenge is regulation. How do you keep the benefits while curbing the misuse?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question for regulators worldwide, isn't it? How do you foster the innovation and potential efficiency gains of DeFi while building safeguards against financial crime and protecting national security? It's a really complex balancing act involving technology, finance, law, and international cooperation.
A major challenge indeed. Okay, from the digital world, let's move to a very physical, tangible, geopolitical flashpoint, the South China Sea. The Philippines has reacted strongly to a recent move by China concerning the Scarborough Shoal. This seems to be a recurring issue. Can you remind us about this dispute?
Yes, the Scarborough Shoal is a significant point of contention. Geographically, it's an atoll located about 220 kilometers west of the Philippines island of Luzon. Crucially, it's over 500 miles, or about 800 kilometers, away from the nearest major Chinese landmass, Hainan Island. It's the largest atoll in the South China Sea, mostly submerged at high tide, just a few rocks visible.
And the dispute is over who owns it.
Correct. China claims it, calling it Hualien Island, based on historical discovery and administration arguments dating back centuries, maybe to the Yuan dynasty. The Philippines bases its claim on geographical proximity, it's much closer to them, and argues it falls within its 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, as defined by the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLSS.
So a classic clash. Historical claims versus modern international maritime law under UNCLSS. Is it just about sovereignty or are there resources involved?
Oh, resources are definitely a factor. The deep waters around the shoal are a very productive fishing ground, rich in marine life. The lagoon itself has valuable shellfish and sea cucumbers. And control of features like this also has implications for maritime surveillance and asserting broader claims in the resource-rich and strategically vital South China Sea. China's recent announcement about establishing a nature reserve there is seen by the Philippines as another step in asserting control, hence the strong reaction.
Right, so it touches on sovereignty, resources, international law, and regional power dynamics. A complex hotspot.
Absolutely. It really encapsulates many of the core tensions playing out in the South China Sea today.
Wow. We've certainly covered a diverse range today, haven't we? From the micro-level details of household surveys in India and discovering new gecko species, all the way to the macro level of global finance with perpetual bonds and DeFi and these complex geopolitical hotspots like the Scarborough Shoal, all vital areas for your UPSC preparation. We've tried to connect the dots between economic foundations, environmental protection, scientific breakthroughs, international relations, hopefully offering insights beyond just the headlines. Now it's really over to you, isn't it? To reflect on these points, maybe dig even deeper into the topics that particularly caught your interest. And here's a thought to leave you with. In this era of, well, constant change and information overload, how might understanding the deep connection between historical values like those driving the Bishnoi sacrifice centuries ago and cutting-edge financial or technological innovations fundamentally reshape how we approach building a more sustainable, equitable future, both for India and globally? Something to ponder. Don't forget to like this deep dive and subscribe to the deep dive for more curated knowledge and those